Well, how y'all are today? It's your buddy George Jones over at the Bergen Gun Range with my next installment on, hey, let's paint an old gun. So, uh, some years ago, my cousin Ed, that you see on this channel occasionally, uh, he acquired a Beretta Model 92. Uh, I don't know if it's a military gun or a police trade-in or what it was, but it was in perfect mechanical condition. With the finish was, it was finished. That would be the best way to put it. The finish was finished. So he said, well, I'm going to Cerakote it, or I'm going to duplicolor it, or I'm going to hydro dip it or something. And I said, well, that'd be fine. You just need to do that. About 2 weeks later, I was down in Somerset, and he had coated that gun olive drab green and had put green dyed copperhead skin grips on it, which he had made himself, which I was pretty tickled about. It looked pretty good, pretty good looking gun. So I asked him, I said, well, how did you, what coating method did you use? He says, you wouldn't believe me if I told you it was Testor's model airplane paint. And I thought, man, I spray painted guns before and it rubs off in about a month, and it just, spray painting them just doesn't work, just doesn't work. So I asked him, I said, well, what'd you do? He says, well, he said he stripped it with methyl ethyl ketone, rubbed it down real good with a high powered solvent, and got it all degreased and cleaned. Masked off the raceways on the slide and masked off the raceways on the frame, and and covered the internal parts with masking tape, and just hung it up on a coat hanger wire and sprayed it. Let it dry, sprayed it again, let it dry, sprayed it again, and then put it in the oven at 250 degrees or on warm, for about 30 minutes. And I thought, I ain't gonna do you no good. So 3 years later, we were out shooting one day on the forestry land range, and he brought out that gun, and after 3 years of pretty serious use, he's carrying it as a concealed carry gun. It still had the finish was in good shape. I mean, maybe it had a little wire spot on a high spot, but it was in good shape. It still looked good. So a couple of years ago, when Brownells came out with the retro line, I set about to build me a retro Car 15. This one, to be exact. And I had an old Colt M16 upper laying at the house in a parts box, and I put me a Car 15 brake on the end of it that's pinned and spot welded, and put me a little retro style butt on it. I made me a little retro style gun, cut the grip off to where it would be even with the 20 round magazine. It made me a little Car 15 style gun for a whole lot less than what Brownells wanted for one. So I got to thinking, boy, everybody's got a black AR-15. I'd like to have an AR-15 some other color besides black, because I got like 3 or 4 of them, and it's like, I'd like to have one that's some other color. So I saw one over at Cabela's that some custom guy had done that was olive drab green. And I thought, man, that's a good looking rifle right there, olive drab green, you know. So I thought about Eddie Ray's gun, and I went and got me a can of Tester's model airplane paint. Now, I went on Tester's website, and they said that there was a slightly different formula for their model paint than their standard spray paints, and it had a hardener in it that made it a little bit more durable and made it sit up better. So with that in mind, I went about masking off everything that needed to be masked off on this gun and hanging it up in the basement and spray painted it. Well, I made me a rig for heat lamps. So I painted this guy, put a coat on it, went back, put another coat on it, went back, put a third coat on it, got it on there pretty even, masked off my sight assemblies to where they wouldn't get gummed up, and painted it and put it under the heat lamps, you know, for about an hour, and then turned it over and got the other side baked on. Now that was almost 2 years ago. Since then, I've shot this on the Vietnam style 3-gun match a couple of times up in Cynthiana, and I've knocked around down at Knob Creek with it and took it on a marijuana eradication mission or two, and one thing and another, and the finish has stayed on it pretty good as Cerakote would. So I thought I'd make this little video and show off this gun and show off what I did to put a colored coating on it, and how I did it, and the materials that I used. That's this stuff. So this can was $4.99 at Hobby Lobby. This is a fresh can. I just bought it the other day. But there's enough in this can to do probably a couple of AR-15s. That, you know, this can put 3 coats on the AR and was not empty. You know, I used it on something else. But yeah, it works pretty good as an alternative to, you know. Now I think they've got Cerakote in a can now. I think they've got Cerakote in a can. But, you know, where it's got, once you activate the can, it activates the hardener in it as well, and so forth. And I don't know, I haven't tried it yet. I intend to. But as a general gun coating, this stuff seems to work pretty good, because, you know, Ed's Beretta is in the 5th year of service, and that coating that he put on it, it stayed on it real good. And this one's in the 2nd year of fairly hard use. This is like my go-to AR, you know. So this is the one that I really take out and use when I need to really take one out and use it. So, and it's holding up very good. You know, the wear points on it, where you handle the gun and so forth, you know, aren't wearing any appreciable amount at all. So I think it's a good, cheap, inexpensive alternative to, you know, the more expensive aerosol gun coatings that are out there. So anyway, that's a little video I wanted to make. I was over here shooting with some pals and shooting at various ARs, and I think they had a K98 Mauser, and they had a Gewehr 98, and, you know, like that. And we've been shooting, and I decided to make this little video. So like, take, share, commentate, and subscribe. Hope this helps you out. Leave me an old $1 in the Patreon bucket if you want to, and if you don't want to, I'll just keep on making cockeyed comment for you. Well, all right then. We'll see y'all.